I'm GM Blue, back with another Legend tier list for patch 13.14. This will be the last tier list that is created using stats. Unfortunately, Riot has made a change to their augment data policy where third-party websites will no longer be able to publish stats around augments. So this tier list will be made using stats, but moving forward, that will no longer be the case. It'll be based on Fieldscraft or small adjustments to the existing stats based on the changes that they make, whatever. Main point here is that this is the last tier list that will use objective data that we have access to. So let's get into it. In S tier, we have Ornn. He is by himself. There is going to be a lot of legends that are in B tier, starting off with Sol. The reason why a lot of legends are going to be in B tier is because Riot has actually done a decent job with balancing most of the legends. Good job. In A tier, we have Bard. So Bard finally got reworked. He has moved up from D tier all the way up to A tier, so that is a big adjustment. Very happy that he's finally playable. So if you are somebody that's a fan of Bard, he is now playable. Caitlyn is in C tier because she got a little bit of buffs. Draven is also in C tier. You could argue he's in D tier, but he's close enough to C that I'm going to put him in C. Ezreal in B tier. Lee Sin, unfortunately, in D tier. We'll talk about why a little bit later on in the video. Master Yi is in high B tier. Pengu in low B tier. Poro in A tier. Tahm Kench in D tier. Twisted Fate in low B tier. Ornn in B tier. Veigar in B tier. And Vladimir in B tier. So a whole lot of legends in B tier. And if you're curious for why, let's go into the stats. So if you haven't watched my legend tier list before, I collect all of the different data for the different augments that are offered by the different legends. I multiply that by the probability that you would see each of those different augments at different stages in the game in order to find the expected value of taking all of your legends augments. So if you were to take all of Ornn's augments, on average, your expected placement would be 4.36. Lower is better, right? Because first is better than eighth, right? If you were to take all of Tahm Kench's augments, on average, you would get a placement of 4.99. Okay, this is accounting for the fact that you're more likely to see a gold augment than a silver augment, blah, 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 blah. Okay? If you are curious about different stages in the game, because, for example, you have no intention on taking every single augment from a particular legend, what you can do is I'll sort this A to Z for you so you can see Bard has the best 2-1 augment, Tahm Kench has the worst 2-1 augment. If you look at 3-2 augment, Bard and Ornn are tied for the best 3-2 augment. That's because they have the same thing with small and medium and large forge. And then Tahm Kench, again, the worst 3-2 augment. And then if you want to see the best 4-2 augment, Ornn has the best 4-2 augment. And again, Tahm Kench with the worst 4-2 augment. So, I mean, this really shows you Tahm Kench, unfortunately, needs a lot of love in order to get out of D tier as of right now. He is definitely, I would argue Tahm Kench is in another tier even below D, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and start talking about each of these different legends. So up in S tier, we have Ornn. Ornn had no changes from the prior patch. So he was already in S tier in the prior patch, and nothing was buffed by enough to overtake him. So Ornn, in my opinion, is still the best legend right now if you want to play competitively. However, the edge that you get from playing Ornn, if you go back to my prior tier list, you can see that S tier legends were typically at like 4.2 average, 4.25 average. And again, if we look at the stats for Ornn, he's at 4.36. It is still better than everything else by a decent margin, but it's not like the S tier legends from prior patches where if you weren't playing it, you felt the difference. So Ornn is better than other legends, but you don't have to play him. In fact, I would say anything that is in B tier and up is competitively viable. Okay? Any of these legends is competitively viable. You could play it in a tournament and you would still, it's not going to meaningfully impact you. In fact, in general, legends are not going to be a massive impact on your play because it's only 1 out of 6 augments that are getting affected. But anything from B tier up, I would say, is competitively viable. All right. So Ornn in S tier. Bard. Bard is in A tier now because he got 2 reworks. He got a rework to his silver augment, and he got a buff to his prismatic augment. So if we go and pull up the stats here, let me zoom out just a little bit so it's easier to see this at a big level here. So Caretaker's Ally, that's his silver augment. It got reworked so that at level 6, you're getting I think it's a 2-star 3 cost. It's really good. If you hit a really good 3 cost like Akshan or Karma, yeah, you're probably having a good time. If you hit a worse one, then yeah, there's a little bit of a lottery component to this, unfortunately, because there's two really good 3-cost reroll comps right now. So there's a lot of people that are taking Bard and playing what they call the Bard lottery to see if see if they can actually hit the ideal 3-cost. But yeah, this is just a really strong augment right now. And then his prismatic got buffed so that the way his prismatic worked is it would give you something at level 4, I think as a component. At level 6, you would get a completed item. And then at level 8, you would get a Radiant Armory. Well, they moved that Radiant Armory from level 8 to level 7. Big buff to his prismatic. So if you're like in a very econ heavy portal, like Scuttle Puddle, for example, then it's a lot easier to reach that level 7 board. And you can make use of that Radiant a lot better. So his prismatic is a lot stronger, his silver is a lot stronger. All these other augments did not get touched. So the main reason that Bard has moved up from D tier all the way up to A tier is now his 2-1 augments are quite good. Poro is up in A tier from B tier in the last patch because there's basically not any broken legends. So Poro is quite strong. Believe it or not, this is actually one of the weaker times that Poro has been, because if you go and look at these stats here, I pulled up these stats from 7:54 p.m. Last night. So the stats got turned off for websites at 9 p.m. That was the last time that you could see those stats, but they last got updated around like 7:50 p.m. So this is the latest data that we had before all of the stats got turned off. And you can see that most augments at different stages of the game, your average silver augment on 2-1 is a 4.6. Your average gold augment on 2-1 is a 4.59. In fact, your average augment on 2-1 is going to be below average placement of 4.5. So Poro is actually weaker than he normally has been in the past, because normally you would have at least one thing here that's like below a 4.4 or below a 4.5 that's like above average. But yeah, Poro augments, unfortunately, not very strong on 2-1 right now. There are some very good augments that you can get on 3-2 and 4-2 that will tailor to your board. For example, Invoker +1 or Loving Invocation, because Invokers are so strong right now. So Poro, again, as usual, is better than the stats imply, and even the stats themselves, this is for last patch. Hold on, let me go to the current patch. So even the stats themselves imply that Poro is the 3rd best legend, and he is better than the stats imply. So you're going to see a lot of streamers probably running Poro, you're probably going to see a lot of streamers running Bard, and you're going to see a lot of streamers running Ornn. Okay, that's your S and A tier. Now, in B tier, there's a lot of different options here. So with your combat legends, you have Master Yi, you have Vladimir, and you have Veigar. A couple of notes here. Master Yi got indirectly nerfed, so his augments did not get nerfed, but he got indirectly nerfed by the Slayer nerfs. Because one of the best comps to run with Master Yi was Zed. So pumping up was really good with Zed. He got indirectly buffed through Gunners becoming stronger, so pumping up with Gunners is pretty solid because they get a lot of attack damage, so attack speed scales quite well. So Master Yi, he's kind of in a weird spot right now, but he is a strong combat-based legend. Vladimir got an indirect nerf in that Strategist Azir is no longer that strong. It's, I think, like a 4.6 average comp now, compared to like 4.3 or lower in the prior patches. So Vladimir is a little bit weaker now than he was before, but he's still strong. Veigar got some nerfs preemptively because they fixed a bug with Jeweled Lotus, where they did some buffs to Jeweled Lotus in 13.13, but Veigar never saw those buffs. So Jeweled Lotus for Veigar was on the 13.12 patch instead of the 13.13. So because they decided to change it so that he would finally get those 13.13 buffs, they decided to preemptively nerf it. Now, I'm going to say that this made zero sense, because if you look at the stats for 2-1, Jeweled Lotus was never good on 2-1. Any of the variants, the silver one, the prismatic one, the gold one, they all had bad stats on 2-1 because you really didn't have any units that could use it all that well, right? Because you didn't have like a full carry that could use those items or could use that buff, exceptionally well. So as a result of that, unfortunately, Veigar was already on 2-1. If you were assuming the non-nerfed version, because the augment stats that we get on 2-1, they can't come from Veigar. Because you can't, the way that it worked was that Legend Augments stats on 2-1 could not be shared in the API even before the policy change. You could only get data for Jeweled Lotus from people who weren't picking Veigar. So this was without the bug. It was averaging a 4.6. So now with the bug, unfortunately, Veigar is down here at 4.74 on 2-1. Not good. They also nerfed his 3-2 augments preemptively because they fixed the bug for his 2-1 augments. So they said, okay, we're gonna make sure that we don't overbuff him, which it wouldn't have been an overbuff in the first place to fix the bug. But they decided to preemptively nerf him as well. So his 3-2 augments went from a 4.35 all the way down to a 4.53. So yeah, Veigar got hit pretty hard here. He's still B tier, but like he would have been S tier or A tier if they hadn't, hit him so hard with like double nerf. Unfortunate. It is what it is. Sol, still the econ legend of choice if you're looking to go fast 8, fast 9, play Bel'Veth or whatever. Sol is still quite strong. Ezreal still good if you're just looking to get a bunch of items. Still quite strong if you are looking to play that unique play style of playing around different emblems, especially now that Invoker emblem is so strong, for example. So yeah, is in a good spot. Also, Deadeye emblem is quite strong now. So he continues to be floating around that B and A tier area based on like how good you are at playing him. He is a unique legend to play. I could definitely see people one-tricking He's really fun. And I think he's competitively viable, especially if you get good enough to learn all the different boards you can play with him. I know, for example, Riot and Nico was playing him a bunch and trying different things out. So yeah, definitely one of the more fun legends, and he is viable. Pengu, I don't have a lot to say about Pengu. He continues to be this kind of like weird champion that now that they buffed Piltover, or what they did is they buffed really the units that you would play with Piltover. He's a little bit better where like, Zeri comps are doing okay, and maybe if you have Piltover on 2-1, he's okay. But generally speaking, I just don't like Pengu too much. He is in B tier though based on his stats, so I won't take that away from him. He's still okay overall. Generally speaking, I find him to be kind of a boring legend, but this is not about my opinion. This is about his overall power level, and if you look at the stats here, he's averaging a 4.62, and if you look at last patch, he was averaging a 4.57. So yes, he belongs in B tier. He's good. Twisted Fate. A lot of drama over Twisted Fate, usually because a lot of people like Twisted Fate because he guarantees you your BIS items. They did not go through with any nerfs to Twisted Fate like they were talking about possibly doing at the start of patch 13.13. They said maybe in 13.14 we'll ship another nerf to his augments. They did not go through with that, thank goodness, because he would be absolutely awful if they had. Twisted Fate's good. He still kind of serves his purpose of if you're trying to force a comp and you're not good at being flexible with items, Twisted Fate is really good at making sure that you're able to get your best items. These stats websites still provide the best items or possible combinations for different units. So you can kind of look up things and you can just tailor towards your best items. People get confused a lot about why he is not better. And the reason for why he's not better is, number one, in order to get your best items, you're leaving items on bench. And when you leave items on bench, they're not on your board. And so they're not contributing to your board strength. You're going to be weaker than everybody else. You're also down a combat augment in a lot of cases, or you're down an econ augment in a lot of cases, in order to play or have the flexibility of finding these BIS items. So he's good, but you are giving up a lot, especially tempo in most cases, in order to play him. So when you talk about him on a competitive level, Twisted Fate tends not to be better as some of these like S tier and A tier legends. Just want to talk about that because that's a comment that's on my videos a lot. Caitlyn is in C tier. She got 2 buffs to her 2-1 augments. I think Stars Are Born provides a little bit more gold. So that's the augment that says the first 1 cost and 2 cost units that you buy from a shop are going to be fully upgraded. They'll be 2-starred. You get a little bit more gold now. And then Starter Kit got it got returned or reverted back to what it was before, where you'll get a 4 cost on 2-1, and I think you'll now get another 4 cost on 3-1 or some other later point in the game. So you'll get a free 4 cost pair, which is really valuable that you can play around, and it kind of gives you a good direction on what you should do for the rest of the game. So Caitlyn got buffed. She's not strong, but she is a lot better than she was before, so she moves up from D tier to C tier. Draven also, I think, got a slight adjustment to Spoils of War, where they added some things back into Spoils of War that were removed, just to be safe, because they didn't want to have a scary Draven patch again. So, Draven got a slight buff, I believe, and he's still not very good. Okay, he's still not very good, but he is, I would argue, playable if you like his playstyle. Okay, I would not say he's competitive, but he is playable. Lee Sin. So Lee Sin, according to the stats, is really bad right now. If I pull this up, he's a 4.95 average. However, a big reason for why Lee Sin is so bad right now is because Riot nerfed the main 2-cost and 1-cost reroll comps by nerfing Slayer. So Zed reroll was very common last patch, and Kayle reroll was very common last patch. Both of those units are Slayers, and part of the reason why those comps were so good in the last patch was because they buffed Slayers a bunch in the last patch so that their threshold went from 75% for additional damage to 60%. Or I think it was the other way around, sorry. It went from 60% from activating to 75%, so it activated a lot sooner. I think they reverted that buff to Slayers, and they also removed some Omni Vamp from Slayers. So now those two comps are performing a lot worse. Those were the two main comps that you were playing with Lee Sin in last patch. Lee Sin will likely move up in the ranks once another 1 or 2 cost reroll comp is discovered that is quite strong. Okay, so Lee Sin is not going to stay down here in D tier. He is D tier right now in day 1 of the patch. As time goes on moving forward in the patch, as people discover 1 and 2 cost reroll comps that are good, Lee Sin will move up through the tiers, and he will be much better, likely move up all the way to B tier if there is a very strong 1 or 2 cost reroll comp. So I want to make note of that, okay? Because towards the end of last patch, he was starting to get played a lot more. In fact, I have those last patch stats. There was no nerfs to any of Lee Sin's augments, so you can see here that Lee Sin was averaging a 4.61. That would put him in B tier. So last patch he was in B tier, and even though there were no changes, he's now all the way down in D tier. That's because people don't know what to play with him yet. So he will move up. Tahm Kench will not move up. Tahm Kench, unfortunately, you saw it before, he has the worst 2-1 augment, he has the worst 3-2 augment, and he has the worst 4-2 augment. There is nothing, in fact, I'm pretty sure that every single one of Tahm Kench's augments averages below a 4.5. Yep, every single one of them, okay? I'm missing this one over here. Yeah, every single one of Tahm Kench's augments averages below a 4.5 or above it, whatever you want to say. It's a worse placement than 4.5. He needs a lot of love. And I don't know why Riot keeps ignoring it, because they over-nerfed econ augments during the Draven patch. Unfortunate. And now Azreal is just a better Tahm Kench. And you would think, with Mortdog hosting his Tahm Kench only Legend tournament, I think like a week from now, that they would have buffed it in the patch that tournament was going to take place in, because it was so underpowered in the last patch as well. Look, Tahm Kench was the worst legend for the last patch as well. It's unfortunate because I want to play this legend. I really like Tahm Kench. I really like the idea behind Tahm Kench. I like being rich. I think it would be really fun. But as of right now, Azreal is just a better Tahm Kench. I really hope they change this. I really hope this is something they address moving into 13.15. But that's where we are right now, unfortunately. So there's your legend tier list. I hope this helps you pick what legend you're going to play for this patch. Later in this week, I'm going to upload a video where I one-trick a comp in this patch, 13.14, to Diamond, and I'm going to walk you through how I did it, so hopefully you can climb to Diamond no matter where you are. You don't have to learn this crazy, complicated metagame. I'll walk you through the legends I played. I'll walk you through how I played different stages of the game, what different boards I played in order to stabilize until the final board, what items I use, so on and so forth, so that you can hopefully follow along with me and maybe get to Diamond yourself, one-tricking a comp, and then you can expand your horizons and try different things out. So that'll be something coming later in the week. Subscribe if you're interested in that sort of content. See you next time.